Now, the San Francisco police have been very quiet about why they raided this reporter's home. KPAX 5's Phil Matier and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, why are the police withholding information about this incident?
Well, I don't understand how a city like San Francisco could withhold any information that might be relevant for purposes of explaining the conduct engaged in by the police department in this matter. Believe me, in our town, you got to tell it all, and you got to tell it before somebody asks you.
Well, and I'll tell you too, as somebody who has to deal with the police department, has had to ask them questions, they are incredibly tight-lipped generally. I mean, now they have a certain incentive to not disclose what exactly was behind the decision to act like they did, but they are, as a general rule, incredibly tough nuts to crack.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's always the subject of an ongoing investigation. So that's and it goes forever.
Now, and I'm guessing that they're treating their police chief just that way. I'm guessing that there is no way they cleared with the chief before they used the sledgehammer. It's like when matters happen on the streets and somebody gets shot, that's not cleared with the chief. The explanation may end up being the cover-up with the chief, but not the action. And believe me, Chief Scott should make it very clear that he was not a primary informed person before they used the sledgehammer, because they would not have done it.
Okay, but how do you defend the fact that you didn't know then? Then if it says, hey, the chief didn't even know what people were doing?
He should know, right? As a chief, shouldn't you be aware of those kind of actions?
There's no way in the world any chief could be aware of everything every cop is doing on every investigation that's ongoing. When you say you're investigating...
But this is really high profile, right?
Yeah, but you don't call up and say... There's no way you call up and inquire, particularly if he's not your chief.
Real quick question. Does he hold on? He's under a lot of fire right now.
If he wishes to hold on. After all, he was looking for another job.
I believe there were reports that he had applied to be the police chief in Pasadena with the reference there. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the real question to me is, you would think that someone involved with this would think, is this the right thing to do because this person is a journalist? Right,
and we're talking about something that implicates actual SFPD. Remember, somebody in the department gave Carmody the police report, so it's very close to home. You'd think this is something the police chief would be in on. But I do want to point out, he works for the mayor. The mayor is pretty much the only person who can remove him from office if he doesn't resign, in fact. So that's the person that, maybe the police officers union is appealing to here. Meanwhile, the war of words continues between President Trump and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. KPAX 5's Phil Matier and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown if this is going into syndication.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's going to knock everything off, period. It is the Washington version of Gang of Thorns.
No, Game of Thrones. Gang of Thorns.
No, it's a Gang of Thorns.
Gang of Thorns. Oh, that's true. You meant that.
Stay with me.
But seriously, I mean, these guys. What is it? The battling Bickersons?
Well, actually, one of the things that has resulted is now, Democrats who I think some people were saying, "Where's your agenda? Are you going to get anything done?" By saying, "I'm not going to cooperate with you, and I'm going to make sure nothing gets done." He, to some degree, takes the pressure off the Democrats, almost making it more likely they'll keep pursuing subpoenas and maybe even impeachment. I just don't understand the rationale here.
His motivation is very simple. He needs to become a victim again. He needs to have everybody think that everybody's beating up on him, whether it's the press, whether it's the Wall Street, whether it's the academic community. He wants everybody to appear to be against him because that's the voter that he's trying to persuade. And he is doing a good job of dragging it that way. Nancy has to be careful. Whatever you do, don't let those guys in your caucus do impeachment. If he doesn't have an impeachment, there won't be a victim.
Well, but does that work against Joe Biden or even a Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, in the way it worked against Hillary Clinton in 2016?
Neither one of the people you named can win against Trump if Trump is a victim. Period. Trump knows that. The Republican operation knows that. The Democratic evaluators know that. They've got to get Trump in an ongoing daily battle without the burden of victimship
Okay,
being faced with somebody like Nancy Pelosi.
Okay, then why does Nancy Pelosi playing into Donald Trump then?
Oh, no. Nancy Pelosi is doing the job she needs to do.
Well,
engaging with her
But if he winds
for him.
up being a victim or being able to play the victim,
With Nancy, you're not going to be able to play the victim. It's very difficult, first and foremost, with a woman. Secondly, Nancy has been beaten up so religiously for so many years by all the Republicans, she is already beyond being a victim.
Yeah, so if the president wants to paint Democrats as obstructionists, don't you actually have to try and do something and have them stand in the way or be an obstacle to that for that argument to have any merit?
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at the House, for example, they've passed a number of bills that sort of languish because, of course, they have no chance of passing in the Senate. And so you can sit there and go, well, then we don't have to engage in sort of bipartisan conversations anymore because now I'm not willing to be at the table anymore and you're trying to obstruct the things I am trying to do, although he hasn't been totally clear on what that is at this point.
But if the president takes his ball and goes home, can he still then argue they're not letting me advance my agenda if he's the one that leaves the meeting?
Well, I think for a lot of his supporters, they'll say, hey, he's perfectly within his rights to leave the meeting with people who are just out to get him and just want to investigate and just want to dig up dirt so that he loses in this election. I wouldn't negotiate with those people either or want to be in the room with those people. So I think his strategy does make sense for some people. I think people who are already predisposed to side with him in the first place.
The loyalists. All right.